Thank you so much, Claire. And hello, everybody. We cannot see you, but we know you're there. And we're very, very excited to be here. And I'm honored to be invited to do this quick workshop. And like Claire was talking about, we don't expect you will be able to follow step by step. So the process really is for us to walk through this, and then you kind of ask questions. I'm managing the chat when Michael will be doing the demonstration, so you can ask through the chat. If you don't have access to chat, you can give the questions to Claire, and then we'll try to answer it as much as we can. And once you have the concept understanding of this whole thing, then you can follow the video once it's shared, and then you can follow the videos at your own pace. Right. And I also included our contact information in this quick intro over here. So later you will have that slide. I will share this with Claire, and then you can have this whole deck that I present here. And all right, so I want to quickly do a little bit intro. So this of myself, and I will talk about Michael a little bit, and he will introduce himself. And then I'm going to just take a few minutes from there, just quickly tell you if you want to get more in-depth learning and study, where you can go. FIT will have some really exciting program. So that's me. I'm the founder and executive creative director for this studio called Cinda Media Lab. And I'm also a full-time 10-year professor at FIT. In the subject area that I'm involved with is called creative technology and design. So you can see from the title, you know already, it is kind of the merger between creativity and technical knowledge, but using that to explore the new possibilities that's enabled by these exciting things that's happening right now. And a little more about myself. I'm also an author. I just finished and published my 10th book this year. So that is something I'm really excited about. Check off one thing on my bucket list. I want to have double-digit publications. So today's demo will be primarily led by Michael Posso, who is a great professor, and he has been teaching for us, Michael, for what, 3 years, 4 years by now?
Yeah, time goes by real fast.
Yeah, and he actually is one of alumni, so we're very happy to have Michael back teaching for us. He's very passionate about technology, and he truly believes that education can change people's life. That's why he's bringing all his industry experience, his technical know-how, and then come back to FIT. He's someone that we call the unicorn, meaning he was trained in design, but at the same time, he embraced technology and coding, all that great stuff. So Michael, why don't you say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, CJ, for the kind words. Yeah, I actually graduated with a fine arts degree, but during my senior year, I was exposed to technology and things like coding, HTML, CSS. And I did that during an internship. So that's when I kind of discovered that, I really enjoyed working with technology, not only using technology, but creating technology as well. So I have been a developer for over 10 years, and I worked in all kinds of industries, from boutique agencies to enterprise agencies or in-house teams. Right now, I work as a manager of digital development at a Fortune 500 company here in New York City. And I also create courses around the metaverse and augmented reality and virtual reality online.
Great, great. So Michael is going to be the one that's leading the main demonstration today. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes quite quickly establish a fundamental understanding of what is extended reality. And then I will, like I said, mention a few programs. If you're interested, take a deeper dive into it, what FIT has to offer. So I found this great diagram by Envision. They provide innovative technology solution. I thought this diagram is well done. The whole concept XR, which means extended reality, really is a combination of different ways of bringing digital technology or enjoy or experiencing digital technology. So what we're talking about is the AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, or MR, which is mixed reality. So this whole suite of possible ways that you can communicate and help people experience the merger between technology and real life, that whole package is called the XR. So I'm going to show a couple examples. AR and the example which I'm going to show right here is something that my company did for NFL. And then this is for their, let me see if I can get that video playing. All right. There you go. So for their gala, we actually created the AR experience. So on that blue Tiffany color napkin, there's a drawing of the NFL trophy, right? The Lombardi trophy. And we did that because, and when you scan it, and then the real a 3D rendering of the Lombardi trophy will come up. So to connect back to the history. So the history was the vice president of Tiffany met the commissioner of NFL in the bar, right? And then they say, you know what, why don't you create a trophy for us? And then that's a history and how Lombardi trophy was designed. So when we create this experiential gala for them, that's what we did. So anyone that has that napkin, they scan it and they will see a 3D rendering of the Lombardi trophy. So they kind of know the history of that. And this is a quick photo of VR. So I think everybody knows what VR is, which is virtual reality. The difference is augmented reality adds digital information, whether it's a 3D rendering, whether it's textual content, it merge those two things on your phone. So you see that through your digital device. But your vision is not completely put inside of a new virtual world, like virtual reality. Virtual reality, at the moment, you have to wear this goggle. I'm sure this device is going to get a lot better, a lot lighter, but it gives it basically puts you entirely into a new world of digital technology or digital created reality. So it is actually, the technology right now makes it very real. And then your experience of it is, you basically immerse yourself in this new digital world. And I'm showing this photo, which is when we were doing this, we were teaching digital product in Italy, and students were experiencing it. And you can see that the girl, although she knew this is not real, but when she was trying that little a bridge that she inside the virtual reality, she was trying to balance herself because she was so scared. And that experience of totally immersing in it can get very, very intense. And then this is an example of what we call MR. So mixed reality really means something that you do in the physical world impacted something that's in the digital world, right? Here's a simple example of it. So this is a testing model of what we created as a digital experience. So when you try to use a gesture of holding something will trigger to make this virtual rose come back to life, right? So what you do in the real world somehow connected and impacted in the digital space. That's what the concept of mixed reality is. Here is another example, which I'm going to play right now. This is a test that's done by the lab in Japan. And you'll see on the left side and the right side, one is a virtual ball, the other one is a actual real physical ball, and the two actually interconnected. So if you hit one, the other one will react the same way. So that's a great example of a more advanced mixed reality, meaning one thing that's virtual will impact the something that's in real life or vice versa, which is a very advanced and interesting concept. And so those are the kind of a quick overview. So these terms in the future, when you hear it, you kind of understand the differences and similarities, and it is definitely a very, very exciting field. And those are the reason that at FIT, we created this whole initiative called Creative Workforce of the Future. And these are certificate programs that really help creatives worldwide and kind of recompose your tool set. And then so you can join this very, very exciting field that's really happening right now. And then a lot of hiring and a very exciting place to be. So I'm going to just quickly talk about some of our most popular programs. The first one I'm going to talk about is called User Interface Design Certificate Program. And this is, we started this program about 3.5 years ago, and almost feel every single time we offer it is because it is really popular. And user interface design is a really buzzing place because all these different devices, all these different experiences require interface design. So we have one that's coming up, and the registration deadline is March 21st. And I have a little link down there, bit.ly/UID_FITNYC. You can go to that link and you can get some information. And the other one of our most popular program is User Experience Design Certificate Program. And this one is running already. And then the next one up is in the summer. So the registration deadline is May 20th. And then that is our UXD certificate program. So bit.ly/UXD_FITNYC for more information. And I'm going to talk about 3 programs that's actually making up our digital experience master certification. And the first one I want to talk about is data-driven design for digital marketing and social media. Great course for creatives to understand how do you promote your own work through marketing and social media. And this one is coming up. So the registration deadline is March 3rd. And that class has been very popular as well. So bit.ly/data_FITNYC. And this is one of our new programs, NFT and digital product design. This one will be running in the fall. So you have a little time if you like to register. September 20th, that's the deadline. So this is really teaching you how to create products, digital product that you can sell online through this NFT, non-fungible token platforms. And we also have a fashion experience for the metaverse program. It's also new. It's going to launch for the first time in the fall. And the registration deadline is the same as the NFT program. It's September 20th. bit.ly/meta_FITNYC. And this one, I think most of you will probably be the most excited about. This one is taught by Michael. And our Unity XR, which covers AR, MR, and VR development. And the registration, this one is going to be running in the summer. And the registration deadline is May the 26th. And the URL for you to find more information is bit.ly/XR_FITNYC. So Michael, before you jump into the demonstration, do you want to say a few words about this program?
Yeah, sure. So this, some of these programs are completely online, right, CJ?
Yes, and the Unity, this time we're running face-to-face.
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, so this certificate is a blend of hands-on and design theory. XR, AR, and VR being a new medium, there is a lot of challenges when it comes to the user experience. So there are class exercises and assignments that would allow you to understand how people actually use these experiences. And also there is a hands-on aspect where we're actually going to use Unity, and we're also going to do code with C#. Okay, so it is a technology course. So there's some hands-on coding that we will have to do with Unity as well. But we'll create 6 different applications. We're gonna go from web XR using A-Frame, which is those of you are familiar with HTML and CSS. That part should be very easy for you. And then we'll jump straight into Unity. We use some of the different frameworks like Vuforia, the Google Cardboard framework for VR, and 360 videos. Okay, so the idea is that you will finish the course with at least 3 to 6 production ready applications.
Great. And programming is recommended. Programming experience is recommended, but not required. because Michael will cover the fundamentals and it will get you a good foundation to start. So that is all for me, and that's our LinkedIn profile. You can find us on LinkedIn if you have questions or just want to connect, and we will love to hear from you. And for now, I'm going to hand the virtual microphone to Michael.
Okay, thank you, CJ. And any questions, please type those on the chat. Before I start, I wanted to go over some basics of where AR technology is right now. As you know, this is moving very, very fast. It's moving super fast, as a matter of fact. We see it in the news every week. We hear about it all the time. So companies are investing on this. Big technology companies are investing on this. Brands are investing on this. And all of this is basically tying into this concept of the metaverse, right? So the metaverse is not one technology. Most people think the metaverse is virtual reality, where you live in a virtual world. The metaverse is a family of technologies that would allow people to basically own and port over their digital assets from one platform to the other. So AR is probably one of these technologies that is more available to you at a very low cost, because if you have one of those devices, you have AR, you have the capacity to experience AR applications. So let's talk a little bit about what AR is. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and please let us know in the chat if you can see the screen. We just want to make sure that the technology is working.
Yes, look good.
Okay, great. Thank you, CJ. So what is AR? The picture here, as you are familiar, yeah, I guess if you all enough, this is Pokemon Go. And I think this was probably the first time that people experienced, that millions of people experienced AR on their phones. So augmented reality is an interactive experience of a real world environment with the objects that reside in the real world are enhanced by computer generating perceptual information. So we're taking digital objects and we overlaying them on top of the real world. All right, so that is the basic concept of AR. Now we could extend that to other modalities. It include audio, spatial audio. We could include haptics, which is where you actually feel something. Most people know what that feels like, because if you ever play Xbox or PlayStation, when you joystick vibrates, that is a form of haptics. And we also have more advanced modalities like smell, or even heat or pressure. Okay, so a lot of companies are working on this, but as of right now, the easiest way for you to experience AR is with haptics and with spatial sound. Okay, so where is the AR industry at right now? Okay, so we have two major fields, and that is mobile, native, and web. So all of the AR applications or capacity that our cell phones have, which can be pretty advanced. If you have a iPhone 12 Pro, they come with something called LiDAR scanner. And LiDAR scanner is a really advanced technology that allows you to map the real world. Okay, so just having that technology in your pocket is very powerful. We still haven't seen what Apple really wants to do with this technology. There's a lot of rumors about Apple coming up with their own mixed reality headset very soon. But the technology is already there. So the hardware is already there. Most people in this field, what they really want to see is creators. What they want to see is people using these technologies to create good stories and experiences. So then we have the headsets, which is something that you put on top of your head. This market is basically dominated by the high-end market. So these are expensive headsets. They could cost thousands of dollars. So you have things like Magic Leap, the one that you see in the picture, that's a HoloLens 2. And there are some other players. there are other players in other parts of the world, like in Asia, for example. There are other players in this field with more affordable headsets. But as of right now, this is a little bit on the high end. And we also have AR displays. You probably have seen this at the mall or at events. Um, More or less, you're also looking at a way of AR. If you're watching me right now, the fact that I can have this virtual background, it is a form of AR. I'm overlaying a computer object on top of a real video feed. So this could also be considered a form of AR. Now, when it comes to what we could do with our phones or with these headsets, we have three types of AR technologies. We have marker-based and image tracking, which is basically our phone is going to use the camera to match a pattern that is already saved in the application with a pattern that is being detected by the camera. Okay, this is the most simplest way of working with AR. Then we have plane detection. This is a little bit more complex because there has to be enough computer power for you to actually do this. And basically what the phone is doing is trying to calculate where there is a flat surface. And it's doing this by creating a relationship between the different objects that are on the floor. This could also work with a wall. So this is great, but it can have challenges because if you have a floor or if you're trying to do plane detection on a flat white surface, it's not going to work very well because there's really nothing for the camera to latch on. Okay, so it works very well if you do it on a carpet or if you do it on a tile floor or if you do it on the street because there's enough things in the space that the algorithm can pick up in order to map that surface. Okay, once you map that surface, it stays there. Okay, so if you come back and let's say you introduce an object to that surface, the application is not going to be able to detect that object. And that's how Adobe Aero works. Adobe Aero does plane detection. So that is all we can do with Adobe Aero at this point. And the most complex will be spatial tracking. And this is where the device itself is tracking the space in real time. So even if I introduce an object to the space, the application will be able to know that there's a new object in the space. This requires a lot of sensors on the device. So there's all kinds of sensors, video, working together to create that map in real time. This is more expensive. So that's when we see things like the HoloLens, the Magic Leap that could cost you, $2,000, $3,000. All right. So these are some of the devices that we'll see in the market right now. This is the Magic Leap. This is the new version of the Magic Leap. This is the HoloLens, the one right in the middle. And there is a new player. It's called Nreal. They started selling this in the US. They're affordable. They're about $600. But they need to be tethered to the phone. So you need to have a Samsung Galaxy phone and it's connected through a cable to the phone. So I still haven't tested these, but I think for what I heard, for $600, I think they are pretty powerful. They do give you a really good experience. It's not full spatial tracking, but it does give you some pretty advanced features. Some of the brands using AR, and these are actually consumer applications, are Timberland, Amazon, Lego, Disney, IKEA. This is something that makes total sense for a company like IKEA, right? Where you could take, the pieces of furniture and then see them live on your own apartment and see how they fit in the space or how what color is better accordingly to what you have, all the furniture that you have in this space. So that's where I think these applications are very powerful. Sephora, makeup, being able to preview how certain color or certain product will look at you. You probably are familiar with this type of face recognition If you have used Instagram filters, that's pretty much the same technology. And other companies have using it for brands and in-place experiences like Disney. Disney is working on a new proprietary technology in which they can convert an entire space into an AR experience without requiring an actual headset or phone. So there are other ways that you could experience AR without having to actually wear something on yourself or using a device. So you literally just experience it with your own eyes. Okay. So now I wanted to talk about Adobe Aero. Adobe Aero is a new product from Adobe. They have been getting into the whole 3D mixed reality industry little by little. It's a product that's very new, but I feel like it does give you a really good set of tools and integrations. The fact that it's part of the Adobe family is very powerful because you can create your assets in other Adobe software and import it into the Adobe Creative Cloud very easily. Okay, so for the purpose of the demo today, and I'm sorry, but this is only gonna work on iPhones because it's only still in beta. You can go to the App Store and look for Adobe Aero. So you're gonna need the Adobe Aero player, and that's how you're gonna be able to preview what we're gonna do in today's workshop. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna switch to Adobe Aero. In the meantime, what you can do is to download the Adobe Aero player for iPhone. There is a version for Android, but as I tried it on a test Android phone that I have, it's still pretty buggy. So I'm sorry about that. But if you have a phone, an iPhone, this should work really well. I don't believe that you need to sign into your Adobe account. If you don't have one, you don't have to create one. You should be able to preview the AR experience by scanning the QR code that I'm going to show you at the end of the workshop. Yes, an iPad, it works. Yeah, so any type of iOS device. Okay, so I'm going to launch my Adobe Aero and I'll start sharing the screen again in a minute. In the meantime, what you could do is download the Adobe Aero player. And Adobe Aero actually was meant to be used on mobile. So it was meant to be used on tablets. It was meant to be a creation tool, like a kind of like on-the-go creation tool. But they also have a software for your desktop. It works well on Windows and it works well on Macs. But to preview the experience on the mobile device, you should use an iPhone. Okay, so let me create a new project and I'll share my screen in 1 minute. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now. Please let me know because I'm switching monitors. And you should see the Adobe Aero interface. Okay.
Looks good.
All right, thank you so much. So this is where what I call, traditional 2D designers get challenged, right? Because now we're not designing in 2D, right? So when you design a website, when you design a brochure, when you design a magazine spread, you're working on a 2D space. Now we're working on a 3D space, which means that we have another axis that we need to worry about, and that's the Z axis. So now we're working in a 3D space, right? So we have Y, X, and Z. So we're also working with real life scaling. These AR experiences are meant to be used by humans, and they meant to be used most of the time while you're standing. So now you need to have that into account because the models and the assets that you import into your scene are gonna have to be on a scale proportionate to the person that is experiencing the AR application. In Adobe Aero, we could do plane detection. We could do horizontal plane detection, which means the floor, basically, and vertical plane detection, which can mean in a wall. But we also can do image recognition. I think they incorporated this in the new version. So we can actually do image recognition. The way this works is let's say you have a poster, and then you point your phone at the poster, and the Adobe Aero will detect the markers in the poster and anchor the AR experience to the poster. When we use plane detection, the experience is anchored to the plane, to the floor. So here we have our space. As you can see, it's a 3D space. We can assume that the experience will be anchored in the middle of this dot. So we need to have that into account. That's why you kind of have this grid. Usually it's good practice that if you have an AR experience, that experience is launched at least at 3 feet away from the user. Okay, you don't want to anchor the experience too far away, and you don't want to anchor the experience too close, because then the models are going to be like in your face, so you're not going to be able to enjoy the experience. You want to have it at least 2.5 to 3 feet away from the user. So in this case, we can assume that this is where the experience is going to live. Now, when it comes to 3D, just like with bitmap design software like Photoshop, we're dealing with a set of file formats. Okay, so there's a whole family of file formats for 3D. You know, there's FBX, there is Collada, there is GLTF. Sometimes these formats, they all have their disadvantages, but they also have their benefits. So you need to make that decision. You need to see, first of all, which format can Adobe Aero handle, and which format is the best for what you're trying to do. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to use GLTF, which is a very portable, very light 3D format, which is basically a JavaScript file, a JSON object. Those of you who are familiar with programming, you know what a JSON object is. It's just literally a set of instructions. And then there is a JPEG that has all of the textures of the 3D object. And what that does is just takes the JPEG, it takes the instructions, and it builds that object for you. So it's a very portable, very light format. I would suggest that if you create AR experiences, one of the things that you should be really worried about is how long it takes for the user to load the experience on their phones. Because if they have to wait 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds to load the experience, remember this is happening live. We're not downloading this from the App Store. We're scanning a QR code, and then we're downloading the files into our phone live. In real time, I mean. So it's different if you go to the App Store and you download something like Pokemon Go. You're kind of already familiar with that experience. You just have to wait until the app downloads, and then you use the app. But the expectation here is that if we scan that QR code, that AR experience is going to launch in less than 5 seconds, okay? I would say this is something that you have to test, and this is something that you probably need to test in different conditions. If ideally you want this to work over the air, over 5G or at least 5G. If this is something where you need Wi-Fi in order to work, it's not going to be accessible. Okay, so for the purpose of this demo, we're going to keep this models super light. And we want to make sure that our application actually loads fast when we try to download it. So I already have a pretty good idea of what I want to build. I want to have 3 fashion models and create a rotating showroom. Now, before I get into this, I want to make a note, and that is when I teach this to students, they are usually design students, so they're creative and they understand the power of storytelling. To me, that's the most important part of this process. You need to have a strong story to tell. You can't bring a weak story and make it better with AR. That usually doesn't work. You need to have a good story. You need to have a good user case. You need to have good functionality. There has to be a reason why you're doing this in AR. Because if you're just doing an AR for the sake of doing it in AR, it's gonna fall flat. People are not going to enjoy it that much. Once you have that strong story, what you can do is, how can I enhance this story with AR? But you can't do the opposite. You can't turn a weak experience stronger with AR. You gotta have a strong idea. You want to have a strong story to tell, and with AR, you're gonna be able to enhance that story. Okay. So in this case, for the purpose of the theme of this week, which is fashion, I wanted to create a kind of like a showroom where the idea is that once you anchor this experience on the floor, that you interact with these models. Okay, so just putting something in front of the phone or just overlaying it in the real world is only one part of the trick. The whole trick is that you actually tempted to interact with these 3D objects, to move around, to touch it, to see what happens if you get close. That's the whole point of AR, that you use the whole 360 environment to interact with these objects. So I have a few models that I downloaded from Sketchfab. Full disclosure, I didn't create these models. I'm not a 3D artist. So there are websites where you can actually buy or find these models for free. And I downloaded this model in GLTF format. So what you get is a zip file. So you can take this zip file, and what I'm doing right now is I'm dragging that zip file into my scene. So you see it, that's the whole zip file, because it's not one file that you bring in over. You bring in a set of files, but when they get brought into the scene, they kind of come together and give you the model. So by default, this is going to be placed right in the middle of my scene. Okay. Now, when we talk about scale, Adobe Aero is in the metric system. So we're dealing with centimeters, and also we're dealing with meters. So right now, this is pretty small. If I look at the scale right now is 0.0012. So the fact that you see it here on the screen doesn't mean that this is going to be at the size of an average human being. Let's assume that the average height for a human being is, I don't know, 5'4", something. So we want to have these models scale more or less in relationship to that. Okay, you don't want to put this experience on the floor and it's going to be so tiny that you're going to have to get on all fours in order to see it. You want to see it in real time. You want to see it like it's an actual real object in front of you. So this scaling is still pretty small. So I'm going to change the scaling to 0.01. And I will say that this is more like it. Okay. So we have a full 3D model with textures at a good scale. Okay. Now, some of the things that we could do with Adobe Aero is we could also bring some objects from the left here. So let's just add some sort of, I don't know, some sort of platform, some sort of stage to this model. Okay, so I'm going to go to abstract shapes, and I'm going to bring a disk. There's my disk. And if you ever done any type of 3D work, you're probably familiar with this Gizmo. This allows you to scale, rotate, and move a 3D object in the scene. So right now, I'm just going to make this a little larger. And this is going to be like the stage. This is where this mannequin, with the clothes, is going to stand. okay? So we have two 3D models. This is right now working in a horizontal surface. If you want to preview it, you can click on the preview view here at the top. So our preview looks good. If I go back to edit, this is going to allow me to keep working on my projects, okay? I need a way that I can interact with this model. So my idea was I want the user to be able to rotate this model with some sort of object. So this is where we need to start thinking about how this experience works in the terms of 3D objects in a 360 scene. One of the techniques is to actually have some way that we can interact with this object by adding interactivity that we can trigger through a tap. So we tap in on the screen and we trigger in an action. So for that, Aero is giving us triggers and actions. So there's all sorts of triggers and actions. Right now, I want to set up a trigger that if I tap on that object, it's going to make the model rotate. So just for the style of what we're building, we have this beautiful golden objects. So I'm going to bring this pyramid. And I'm going to put this somewhere outside the my model, right? So now we start to think about distances. Okay, if I put it too close, then I'm not going to be able to interact with it. If I put it too far away, then it's going to be on the back. It's going to be on my back, and then it's not going to be able to interact with it. So let's look at this scene from the top, from the top. So let's say that the trigger object is going to be a little bit outside. So the point is to have this more or less at the level at a level where the person can actually interact with this object. So I'm going to bring it up more or less around here. And as you notice, this is in the metric system, and I don't think you can change it. So let's stick with that right now. So let's look at a scene. So what do we want to do here? We want the user to first do the plane detection. So this is what's going to happen when you scan this code. Adobe Aero is going to ask you that to wait a little bit for the experience to load. After the experience loads, it's going to ask you to scan the floor to find a surface. So what you're going to do is with your phone, you're going to scan the surface. One of the challenges is you need good light conditions, okay? If you're in a dark room, this might not work very well. You need more or less decent light conditions for this to work because you're using the phone's camera. And if the phone's camera can't really detect enough objects or enough markers on the floor, it's not going to be able to detect the surface or the floor. So you want to do this in a room with decent light conditions. Then it's going to ask you to anchor the scene. So this is where you're going to tap on the phone, and then Aero is going to place that experience on the floor. So now you're going to be able to see exactly what I'm seeing right now on the screen, except that you're going to see it through your phone. So we want a way to interact with this 3D model. Right now, our scene is pretty static. There's no interaction. So for that, we have triggers and actions. So I'm going to click on this pyramid, and then I'm going to go all the way here to the lower left. And the action that I want is a tap. So if the user taps at the pyramid, I'm going to make the model rotate, let's say 35 degrees. So I'm going to select tap, and that's going to be my my trigger. Now I need to associate this trigger with an action. In this case, the action is rotate. So if I click on the action button, I'm going to click on rotate. And when I do that, I have this set of settings that I can change to see how this works. By default, Adobe Aero is going to think that what you want to make rotate is the pyramid, but that's not what we want to do, right? We want to use the pyramid as a trigger for an action that's going to happen on another object in the scene. So this is very powerful because now you can create a full environment where you can interact with objects and make other things in the scene move or, you know, grow or disappear. So we don't want this to be the subject. We don't want the subject to be the pyramid. We want it to be the 3D model. So if the model is in your scene, it should show up here in this drop-down menu in the subject. Now, we want it to rotate in the y-axis. Okay, we don't want it to rotate on the x-axis. We want it to rotate on the y-axis. So I'm going to say 35 degrees. So far, so good, but let's make sure that this actually works the way we intended. So there's a way that you can actually preview this really quick, and that is by clicking on this play button. It says play once. So that's what we want. We want it to rotate, you know, 35 degrees. If the user keeps tapping on the pyramid, it's going to rotate another 15 degrees and another 15 degrees and another 15 degrees. So this is pretty good as it is. Let's add some sound. So let's say that I anchor this scene on the floor. And if I get closer to the model, if I get close enough, I can trigger some music. Okay, so that's another trigger. It's the proximity trigger, which I think is actually pretty cool because you could create a full-scale AR experience, and as you move around, you can actually trigger objects and actions. So you don't need to tap on anything. You choose as you get closer, it's going to trigger the action. So you could like literally create a scene that is going to come to life as you move around the scene, because each of these objects is going to detect how close you are to that object. So I downloaded some sound from a free website. And what I want in this case is I want to click on the 3D objects.
Hey, Michael,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time a little bit. So can you quickly jump to the end or then quickly show them what the end result is supposed to look like?
Okay,
Claire
perfect.
just informed me there's another group waiting.
No problem. All right, so you guys get the idea. Triggers and actions. All right, so let's preview this. I'm going to go here to the top, on the top right, and I'm going to click on create link. This is the QR code that you need to scan, but there's also a link, which I'm going to copy and paste on the chat. So if you click on that, it's going to open the Aero app. If you scan this QR code, I'm not sure how close you guys are to the screen, but you could take out your phone and scan this QR code with your camera app. And if you already have the Adobe Aero app installed, then it's going to load the experience. It might just take a little while. As a matter of fact, I think I should close this. Let's see. Let me try it again. It might just say that the application is still loading. Let's try it again. It looks like it's loading now. And then the second thing that's going to happen is Adobe Aero is going to ask you to do the plane detection. So you're going to have to take your phone and scan the floor. Once the floor is detected, you're going to tap on where you want this experience to live. And now you're going to be able to see the experience. If you tap in the pyramid, you're going to trigger the action. So let's try to preview it here. So this is our experience. And if I tap on this pyramid, the model moves. If you get closer, what I wanted to do is that if you get close enough to the model, then you hear sound. And this is spatial sound, which means that if you turn your back to the model, the sound is going to change and you're going to be able to actually notice the difference. And the sound is going to play from your phone. And ideally, it will work better if you had headphones. So I'm gonna copy and paste the link on the chat for everyone. Okay. And this only works if you have the Adobe Aero app. It might just take a little while to upload, especially because most of you are trying it right now. But if you can do it maybe perhaps in a few minutes after we're done, I'm sure the experience is gonna load fine. All right, well, that's it for me. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Claire. I hope you like this demo of Adobe Aero. Again, it's a really easy way to get started with AR. But again, if you don't have a good story to tell, AR is not going to make your story better. You need to have a strong story and a strong user case.
I really
Thank you,
love
everyone.
What you're talking about. It's not a silver bullet. It is something to enhance your creativity. At the end of the day, the idea is the king. So thank you so much, Michael and Claire. So that's it. That's all we can do for today. And thank you again for inviting us.
Thank you.